Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So we have a preview of Jonathan Anderson's upcoming Dior. We have a few bags and I thought we'd just talk about it today. So here we've got his take on the book tote. Of course, this is a design by Maria Grazia Chiuri, probably her most successful design in terms of commercial success, but we've got three different versions for now. One with this boldly titled Dracula by Bram Stoker in this very eye-catching typography. And then we have this one with the Dior by Dior framed with this ribbon motif and the Liaison Dangereuse. Okay, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but you will see this up here. But these, of course, referencing literary works. And I do think interesting that we are seeing his take on the book tote. I think it's probably been easily the most successful product at Dior for the past decade. I think this style also, when it came to luxury fashion, really popularized this very boxy tote style. Think of the Louis Vuitton on the go, the Fendi Sunshine tote. And I think something about this very structured style feels quite Dior to me. The Lady Dior, I think it makes sense for the look of Dior. Here is his take on the tote, referencing literature. And then there's this Dior by Dior one, big branding again. But the book totes, they often have this very massive Christian Dior text, and then either in some kind of pattern. Probably the most popular one was the oblique pattern, logo on logo, but this feels a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. When I look at these, I am reminded of the bags by Olympia Le Ten, with these bags that look like literal books, often referencing literature, film, art. Those are more like clutches, whereas this is a large book tote though, and I think the appeal with those bags is, rather than them being some kind of generic embroidery print, what's nice about them is they're more personal and specific to one's personal interests. Now, of course, this is just a preview, but I wanted to do a poll on these bags, and as I'm filming, these are currently the results. At 185 votes, 29% of people that participated love this, 23% were on the fence, and 49% said not for me. I also got some comments, so let's look at that as well. First comment, oh my god, Maria doesn't seem so bad. Next comment, love it despite not being inventive. It's showing / hinting that Dior is maybe stepping away from the old lady aesthetic and going towards a more youthful attitude. Now, personally, I wouldn't use the word old lady if I just look at what we're seeing here, but I'm not sure if referencing Dracula or famous literature is necessarily a more youthful attitude. I think all ages can appreciate this. This book tote with the ribbon and the classic typeface, but it actually references a book cover, Dior's autobiography, Dior by Dior. I don't know if it necessarily references something that is more youthful versus, quote, old lady. Someone also says, oh my god, obsessed, literal book totes. He came out swinging, foots on our necks. I'm excited to see more. I want that Dracula tote. Next comment, they are going to continue this bag that revealed how cheap and exploitative they are. Of course, Dior last year was being investigated. They also have made it known publicly that they are making efforts to make sure this does not happen. But I think ultimately they're keeping the style because A, it's a really popular style, and a markup on a bag like this is probably very high. Again, this was never for me, but yeah, we're definitely going to see more bags from Jonathan Anderson, not just the style. Where is the preview? Please share, Mary. I'll link everything down below in the comments, but this is basically just images from the Dior Instagram, so you can just go to the Dior Instagram and you'll see these images here. The next comment, this is knocking off, I think they mean to say Olympia Le Ten. So yeah, it is a very similar idea, no doubt. Hers are a cover that's on a clutch that looks like a book, whereas this is a tote, and it's a larger tote, and just functionality wise they serve different purposes, but in terms of idea it is very similar. I will say I prefer the Olympia Le Ten designs. I've never been a huge fan of the book tote, but that's just me. I know lots of people love this design, so again, that's probably why they're really pushing this as much as they can. And of course, this is just a preview. There is more to come, and definitely I will be talking about the bags when we see more of them. What do you guys think of his use of the book tote? This being a Maria Grazia Curie design, reimagined. I don't think Jonathan Anderson is, for a brand like Dior, is gonna wipe the slate clean here. I think at least we'll probably see a lot of these commercially successful items, and of course he's gonna bring in his own designs, and I think that is something I definitely wanna see. We're gonna see in a few days his debut show for menswear. Personally, the book tote was never really a style I was interested in, but would love to know, what do you guys think? Are you into it? Would you spend the $33.50 on a bag like this? Or these bags start at, in the medium size at least, they start at $33.50. But they also released these images, these photos originally shot by Andy Warhol of Basquiat and Lee Radziwill. It just makes me wonder, are we gonna see Andy Warhol art on Lady Dior's? Of course, Raf Simons collaborated with the Andy Warhol Foundation when he was at Dior, and Basquiat, his art has been licensed to many brands. Just thinking of LVMH, I think most recently his work has been featured with Tiffany, and Coach has also used Basquiat art on their famous bags. I was just at the other day at the grocery store, and my kid noticed this T-Rex t-shirt, very famous painting by Basquiat, but it was being sold by Joe Fresh, which is like this clothing company that is like sold at grocery stores in Canada. But anyways, it will be exciting to see what these references mean. And of course, this image is of Lee Radziwill, who is a fashion icon. She famously wore Dior. Another piece of news I also want to mention is Dior is bringing on footwear designer Nina Kristen. She was actually at one point at Loewe and was known for her very surreal shoes there. I did a whole video on her and how she is doing her own thing. She started her own line. She worked at Celine, she worked at Bottega Veneta and The Row, and she's responsible for some of the most viral and I would say very unique shoes. Of course, I love her work at Celine, and then Bottega as well. Like, she brought this really cool, edgy, modern, forward look. Of course, we all remember like the square toes, the lug boots, and then of course at Loewe, she took on that surreal side and made shoes that were very sculptural, playful, like these balloon shoes. Sometimes it feels like we see a lot of the same trends in fashion. If loafers are trending, if ballet flats are trending, every brand is gonna have their own version of this but use their own branding on the shoe. What I love about Nina Kristen is her designs, I always feel like it's fresh, it's different. At this point, Dior could really use this as well. Dior, probably their best hit, and to be fair, it was very successful, were the Ja Dior slingbacks with the ribbon on them. Another popular shoe they had were the D-Way slides, which felt like a great pairing with like your book tote or something, but the Ja Dior slingbacks have probably been their most popular shoe, and it's been what, like 8-9 years now. But then also with Kim Jones, there were those popular oblique sneakers, the ones with the logo that look like Converse, but I think Dior could probably use a breakthrough shoe. Hiring Nina Kristen, Dior could become one of the hottest footwear brands. So I'm really excited for that, and considering Jonathan Anderson has to do what, 18 collections a year, so much of his success relies on his team, so I think this is a great move to hire someone like her. But yes, that's my video for today. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!